We're going to tackle some popular misconceptions or unanswered questions about the Digital Traffic Orders project. Now, the first one on the agenda is, what types of TROs have to be sent to the D-TRO service? This one gets, brings out a lot of questions. Who would like to tackle this one? I have a crack squad of people here. John Harrod Booth, would you like to tackle this?
Happy to do so. So obviously there's quite a wide spectrum of different TROs and notices under various bits of legislation. What's causing the D-TRO service to enable existing is the Automated Vehicles Act 2024. And if you look in clause 93 of that you find it lists specific parts of the Road Traffic Regulations Act 1984. So it's really only those parts that are relevant for the D-TRO service.
Thank you very much. Does anyone want to add anything in there about any particular acts?
Yeah, so just to fill in what types of orders the Act states are, there's Section 1, which is the generality of traffic regulation orders, and that's where most of the orders would fit in. Then there's Section 6 governing orders in traffic in Greater London. There's Section 9 for experimental traffic orders, and there's Section 14 for your temporary orders or notices. There's Section 16A for special events, for like street parties or other types of event taking place in the street. And finally, there's Section 84, which relates to speed limit orders.
But guys, should people get bogged down in these things, or do we welcome all orders into the D-TRO service? Gareth Tilley.
I think, Paul, really we're after as much data as possible. So as long as it complies with our data model and it passed validation, we're looking really for all orders that we can then pass on to data consumers.
Beautiful. Couldn't have said it better myself, Gareth. While you're answering, how about we move on to the next question? Do I have to send in all my orders on day one, Gareth?
No, Paul, you don't. So the Act is very much focused on new orders at the moment. So from day one, it's only new orders that you have to publish to the service. And that coming to full state will be specified in the secondary legislation. We do, however, anticipate that in the future, a date that still hasn't been determined, subject to further secondary legislation, it will be made a requirement that all orders are submitted to the service. However, in the near term, it'll only be new orders.
Thanks, Gareth. A picture perfect answer, I would say. Next, we move on to, do we have to create the legal version of the order digitally and send this to D-TRO? Who better to answer this but John Harrod Booth?
Thanks, Paul. No. So you asked, the underlying legislation, the 1984 Act hasn't been changed, so you can create orders how you wish as a traffic regulation authority. However, you will be obliged to send in a certain format of digital information to the D-TRO service, and that's obviously going to be specified by DfT.
Thank you, John. Now, a DfT question for John Cooper. This one often comes up, John. Is the DfT going to become kind of like the D-TRO policeman and become responsible and do all the checking of the orders?
No. What we are doing is providing the service to which the orders shall be sent. We do conduct a certain amount of validation to make sure that the payloads that are sent into the service constitute a working and acceptable level of details, and that we would classify that as a valid order. But we aren't checking the extent and legal nature of the orders that the traffic regulation authorities make. That's the responsibility of the TRA, working in conjunction with their digital solution provider, to ensure that what we call the digital extract of the full legal order represents the as closely as possible, if not 100%, of the content of what they should be sending in. But we don't check it in that way. We just validate it to make sure that the payload is acceptable to the service.
Thanks, John. Here's one for Gareth. We've had it suggested, Gareth, that the DfT here is effectively forcing TRAs into using one of the current digital service providers. Is that fair comment?
That's not correct, Paul. No. So we're not mandating in any sense that you have to have a digital solution provider. It's, if you're a TRA, it's your choice whether you publish directly to the service yourself or through a digital solution provider. And in terms of the digital solution providers out there, there's a whole host of different companies providing a very wide range of options and services now in this space. We've really seen that increase as a result of this, as a result of the creation of the D-TRO service, and we're agnostic to this. So local authorities, TRAs could publish themselves, or they can choose through their procurement which DSP they go with. It's entirely up to them.
Thank you, Gareth. Here's one for me, would you believe? So is this for the UK is the question. So currently it's just for England. The Automated Vehicles Act does cover Wales, but they would need to create their own secondary legislation. And then we have spoken to Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. We're actually meeting with Scotland just a couple of days after we record this. We updated the Welsh a couple of weeks ago so that they're fully aware of the project and in the loop, and there is the scope for them to join, and they'd be entirely welcome to join. Here's a question that I certainly won't be answering myself. What's happening to the Road Traffic Regulation Act 1984? Are you modernising that too? Perhaps that is a question best left for John Cooper, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Paul. Yes, the underpinning legislation regarding traffic regulation orders is remaining unchanged as a result of the Digital Traffic Regulation Orders project. As we've explained, we have the Automated Vehicles Act that regards the digital extract of new orders being sent to the D-TRO service. But essentially, the underpinning processes regarding the making of TROs are unchanged by the D-TRO process. It may be that at some point in the future, the Department for Transport seeks to undertake a modernisation and updating of that legislation, but that is still to be determined, and nothing has been confirmed at this stage.
Well, I'm learning here as well, guys. Thanks very much for that, both of you. Gareth Tilley, your time to shine. Will the D-TRO service ever become a complete library of all TROs, do you think?
No, Paul, it's not really the intention of the service to be an archive or have an archive of historical old TROs. It's very much a single source of the truth on information about the current road network in England. So it's not there to be an archive and an historic library of TROs.
Thanks, Gareth. Now, question 10 appears to me just to be wearing a trench coat and a false moustache. But before we get to that, John Cooper, do you just want to add something on question 9 at all?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that obviously the initial period of applicability of our legislation talks about the sending in of new orders, and then the secondary legislation will specify what the date to do that from will be. We do expect that further down the line we'll get additional legislation and secondary legislation to mandate the sending in of orders that have already been made. We might call this the back archive. But as Gareth said, we won't be including all copies of all orders ever sent in forevermore, because some of them will no longer be valid, and they will eventually pass out of the service. But what we do hope to get to, by virtue of that second bit of legislation governing all the orders, is that we approach a complete record of what are the active in-force orders, including permanent and temporary, at any one time. The number of temporary orders is quite large, and they're forever coming in and out of force. So that number will keep on shifting. But if you look at the D-TRO service several years down the line, we expect that the level of completion will be a lot better than it will be in the first year or two of operation of public beta.
Thank you, John. And I'm going to stay with you here for number 10. It is similar to that question about will the DfT check the TROs, but will the service reject inconsistent or incorrect TROs?
Yes, as we mentioned earlier, the service carries out a certain amount of validation. So an order has to be correctly formatted, and the syntax has to be correct. All the various mandatory sections of each order have to be present and correct in order for the payload to be accepted by the service. These include, but aren't completely restricted to, things like a geographical check that the coordinates are within a bounding area of England, for example. Also, we have quite strict control over each parameter, how it should be configured and laid out, whether things are strings or arrays, whether they have the correct casing of the parameters. All these things are corrected, checked by our data model in real time as they're sent in, and non-conformant payloads are rejected.
Thank you, John. Well, I think we've strung together an array of answers to those questions. I hope, guys, you've enjoyed the first episode of D-TRO Mythbusters. Will there be a second episode? Maybe that's for you to decide. Take care of yourselves and see you in the future. Goodbye.